Hey, guess what, guys? 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 all the time. Don't believe me? Well, this is what the educated educators are educating our children. This is how they're educating them to think. It's called critical theory. Stick around. Okay, so as I always got to remind myself, is this really a story? I have to fact check it because I'm like, are you sure this isn't coming out of the Onion, or is this coming out of the Babylon Bee, or is someone just doing a very elaborate troll on the rest of us? You would almost think that has to be the case with how insane our world is becoming day by day. In this article that I want to cover today, some critical theory scholars argue 2 plus 2 can sometimes equal 5. Some professors teaching our kids, professors, and activists argue 2 plus 2 can sometimes equal 5. A controversial claim recently brought to light in a series of tweets that has sparked a robust debate among education watchdogs and others. There should be no debate here, but it literally has sparked a debate because these people are so far gone. We are so far gone letting postmodernism gain a foothold in our society, gain a foothold in our brains, that basically deconstructs and pulls down anything that has been considered objective truth. Because everything that's been considered objective truth has been built on what we define meaning to be, to define our objective truth's findings. And all of this defined meaning is what we need to deconstruct, which then downstream of that deconstructs any kind of truth that we've come to know, like 2 plus 2 always equals 4. You cannot ever have 2 plus 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and if we put a plus there, you'd go 1, 2, put 2, plus if you had 1, 2, you'd have 2. That always has to equal 4. Always, 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 always. It's always going to work that way, right? Always. Well, not according to critical theory. Let's read this tweet. Unfucking believable. This is a screenshot of people saying 2 plus 2 equals 5. You read that right. Among them are teachers, educators, and professors who plan on teaching this stuff to your children. So let's talk about what's going on here while they're doing this, why they are doing this, and how we can stop it. Number 2, to start, let's look exactly what they say, and how they argue here is very important. They don't say 2 plus 2 equals 4 is false. They don't say 2 plus 2 always equals 5. What they say is, they talk out of both sides of their mouth and no mouth at all. 2 plus 2 can sometimes equal 5, but it can't. And that 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. Yes, it does. Please read that again carefully. They say 2 plus 2 can sometimes equal 5. It can't. And that 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. Yes, it does. Please notice that the woke are not arguing that 2 plus 2 always equals 5, nor do they argue that 2 plus 2 never equals 4. Because they're complete morons and can't take a position, because that would actually be taking a logical, objective, solid position. And if you are a postmodernist critical thinker or a critical theory thinker, then you can never take a solid position on just about anything at all. Except that white people are always racist, and that there's innate racism in all of us. That is for sure the truth. We can prove that if you're white, you're innately racist. But 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 5, and 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. Please notice the woke are not arguing 2 plus 2 always equals 5, nor do they 2 plus 2 never equals 4. The woke think there is no universally correct answer to 2 plus 2 that is objectively true in all situations. They are falsifying 2 plus 2 to equal 4, or they are deconstructing it. Or no, excuse me, they aren't falsifying 2 plus 2 equals 4. They are deconstructing it. How does deconstruction work? Deconstruction works by attacking at the level of meaning. This means that words, ideas, concepts, discourse, art, text, symbols, whatever is used to mean something or to communicate gets deconstructed. Thus, deconstruction is destabilizes meaning. Deconstruction is destabilizing meaning. Wokies destabilize meaning because when a thing's meaning is not stable, clear, and defined, the meaning of the thing can be redefined and distorted. Do you wonder what we've been seeing happen in the last several years in America and in our culture? The meaning of boy, the meaning of girl, the meaning of male, the meaning of female, the meaning of baby, the meaning of fetus, the meaning of sex, the meaning of gender, right? The meaning of right, the meaning of wrong. Does it start to make sense what postmodernism is doing? It's deconstructing everything so nothing means anything, because then everything can mean anything. Then people can come to any conclusion they want to about it. Here are examples from art, architecture, international relations. I'm not going to go through all those. Woke people think racism, sexism, and bigotry are baked into the language and concepts we use. That is a firm thing, man. These intangible things that you can just paint somebody as, those are for sure. But 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4, and it sometimes equals 5. But it doesn't always equal 5, and maybe sometimes it equals 4. But not all the time. But if you're white, you're definitely racist. And racism, if you're in the Western culture, racism has been baked, and bigotry has been baked, and the patriarchal ways of sexism have been baked into the very fiber of our culture and who we are. Fucking morons. Ugh! Woke people think, yeah, blah, 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 blah. If the language we use is inherently racist and sexist, then our communication and the ideas we communicate will be racist and sexist. Even if we're just talking about taking 2 items and another 2 items and putting them together, how many items do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Or maybe a better way to do it is this. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we could do it that way too. This extends into math. The woke argue objectivity and any either or binary about truth, answers are either true or false, are part of white supremacy. Well, of course they are, duh. Since math uses objectivity and thinks things can be either true or false, math is rooted in what? White supremacy. Take a look. This is Dr. Rochelle Gutierrez. She thinks math teachers need political knowledge. She thinks math is political, not just knowledge of teaching math. And she's created a type of math where humans are no longer centered. What she teaches her students is as follows. Identity of power in mathematical education. Mathematical teachers need to be prepared with much more than just content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, or knowledge of diverse students. If they are going to be successful, they need political knowledge. She also builds upon indigenous principles, and she has argued for a new form of mathematics where humans are no longer centered. Humans are no longer centered, I think is what you meant to say there. Point number 9. Her paper, which has its keywords diversity and equity, begins with her quoting Dr. Kermer, who states that science and traditional knowledge can come together by listening to plants. Plants. They don't talk. We need to listen to plants. I feel the need to state that this is, in fact, a real published academic paper. Number 10, Dr. Gutierrez also says the idea of math can solve anything is a fallacy. But social sciences can. Critical theory and intersectionality and postmodern belief, that can solve anything. Science, math, cannot. She asks why math values logic over intuition and asks students to use logic instead of intuition. Well, here's the beautiful part about logic and intuition. You can use them simultaneously. You can use logic when you logically need to find out, if I have 2 apples and I get another 2 apples, how many apples will I have? You don't need to intuitively think, well, maybe I'll have 4, but if I take a bite out of one, I really then don't have full 4. Or if I want an extra one, maybe I have more than 4. You don't intuitively dance around when you're talking about logical things. But then intuition comes into place when you're walking down a street and you see somebody coming at you and your intuition kicks in is, ooh, I have a bad feeling about this person. Or someone's coming and trying to sell you something using funky math and your intuition kicks in. Kind of like if someone tells you, hey, 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. Your intuition will kick in and go, doesn't feel right here about what you're telling me. Feels like you're trying to sell me some snake oil right now. See, you have intuition and you have logic, right? If you had intuition on this hand, it would be 1. And if you had logic on this hand, it would be 1. And then if you put them together, you would have intuition and logic, which would make 2. Two things you can think about simultaneously. Teaches, and she says values logic over intuition, which we don't. Teaches people to critique reasoning rather than just appreciate its various reasoning attempts. Well, we need to critique reasoning to find out which reasoning is the best and which produces solid results and logical results for what we want to see happen or that we're reasoning about. We can't just say, hey, we need to get across this ravine. Anybody have any ideas? Well, I think if we ran really fast and jumped, we'd make it. Okay, let's try it. I feel good about it. I feel like that's a great idea. Let's just run and jump. Well, see, the fact of the matter is, those people that did that jumped and then fell to the bottom of the ravine and died. And then we removed their genes from the gene pool. And then we had the logical people that said, it might make more sense if we cut down those tall trees that are solid and we lay them across the ravine, a few of them, and then we just walk across the trees. I don't feel good about that. Well, let's just try it. It logically seems like that'll work. I agree. You laid the trees down and you walked across and you lived. And then you realized certain logical things actually help perpetuate life because they're logical and they make sense and they have an outcome that you're trying to achieve. Freaking morons. Number 11, the answer to 1 and 2 above appears to be simply because it's math. She then suggests that rather than learning dominant math, students might instead go outside to learn to appreciate the patterns in a birdsong. Well, that'd be great. You should go outside and you should appreciate the birdsong, right? And you can appreciate the patterns in that bird. And you can count the patterns in that bird. And you can see what logical things happen when the bird goes, whatever it is. If they do it enough, maybe you watch that bird and you say, oh, another bird's coming over. That bird knows logic. That bird logically knew he did these 4 whistles and one short, 1 long, whatever it is. And then he did it several times and then another bird heard it and flew over to him. Oh, birds are actually using logic. Weird. Again, I must stress that this is in fact a real paper. Number 12, Dr. Gutierrez also thinks it's important to ask the students to consider how various forms of problem solving bring joy before finally bringing us to her big point. I'll tell you what brings you joy. It's when you realize jumping the ravine kills you and walking across it on logs, right? Logic brings you joy because you don't die by falling to the bottom of the ravine. Dr. Gutierrez states directly that she is not trying to get closer to truth. This is a stunning admission. This woman is a tenured professor of education at the University of Illinois, and she comes right out and says that she is not trying to find truth. My goal is not to get closer to some absolute truth about our world. This I don't care about truth view is common in social justice circles. For example, Kevin Bird, it's Birdemic, who mocked Concept James and his followers for pushing back at people saying 2 plus 2 equals 5, admits here that he doesn't care about what the truth is when he does science. How can you do science and not care about what the truth is? You can't. Let's tie it all together now. The woke attack the meaning of ideas via deconstruction to dissolve them. They think racism and white supremacy is built into every area of Western civilization. They are not concerned with truth. So it would be no surprise that Dr. Gutierrez thinks that math has been controlled by global white supremacy. So every area of mathematics might come into the conclusion it does because of white supremacy. So even 2 + 2 = 4 might be racist or the result of Western imperialism. Some even say that directly. So this is where we are. So what do? We push back with clarity. You know your stuff and you don't get flustered. You go to school board meetings and you just say no. Social justice warriors show up. You have to go as well. Learn and educate people. And finally, you have to speak up. The time of fear is over. The time has come to boldly call this out in the clear understanding that we are looking for truth. We will not be cowed by accusations of racism, nor will we be brought to the heel by social shaming. Call it out. Truth is on your side. This is the final thing before I completely and totally sign off from this 12-minute, 15-minute video. Don't be scared of these morons. Don't be scared of these deconstructionists. Don't be scared of these people that have their heads inserted up their ass and they say truth is subjective. Truth is not subjective. Truth is objective. And they can talk so flowery, and they can talk in these big words, and they can use all these crazy philosophical meanings and philosophical professors and philosophers and what they said, and they can opine, and they can be like, well, if you think about it, truth is truth. And yes, intuition is important. And yes, logical thought is important. They're both important. You've been given both of them. But you do not need to sacrifice one for the other. You can use them in tandem. And then you have a normal life. It's called common sense. You use your common sense along with your logical reasoning. And you live long, happy lives. Right? Unless you get hit by a truck carrying those logs I talked about that would be laid over the ravine to keep you from trying to jump the ravine and die to your death. Sometimes you get hit by log trucks and you pass on. But for the most part, if you use common sense, logic and reasoning, and you use your intuition, your common sense, you live a long, happy life. And that is my message to you today. Live a long and happy life. Live long and prosper. If you made it all the way to the end of this 17-minute video, you are a world champion champ. SJG Perspective. And so until next time, it's SJG Perspective. Leave a comment below. Tell me you made it to the end, and I will forever love you. And if not, it's okay. We'll talk to you soon. Without fear or animus, SJG Perspective. See you later. Bye.